Have you ever thought that a single mistake, just sitting at the wrong table, could change your entire life? Don't scroll away, because what happened next will shock you and warm your heart at the same time. And before we dive in, if you love stories that prove kindness still exists in this world, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories for more emotional journeys like this. The restaurant was buzzing with noise, filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread, sizzling steaks, and the laughter of well-dressed customers. At the very corner of the hall, there was a long table reserved for one of the most influential businessmen in the city, a single dad, a CEO, and a man known for being intimidating in boardrooms but quiet in his private life. His name was Michael Hayes. Tall, sharp-featured, and always carrying a weight of responsibility, he entered the restaurant with his little daughter, Emily, a lively 6-year-old with bright brown eyes and a smile that could soften anyone's heart. To Emily, her dad wasn't a CEO, he was just her whole world. She held his hand tightly as they were escorted to their table. But somewhere else in the restaurant, in the corner near the entrance, a young girl named Lily stepped inside nervously. She wore a faded dress, the kind that showed it had been washed too many times. Her shoes were slightly torn, and her hands trembled as she clutched a small envelope with her resume inside. She had been searching for a job for weeks, rejected again and again, and someone told her this restaurant was a good place to ask. But as she stood there, her stomach growled louder than her courage. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days, and the warm smell of food only made her weakness worse. The waiter, noticing her confusion, assumed she was with one of the guests and pointed her toward a reserved table. Lily, embarrassed to correct him, walked quietly and sat down, unaware that she had just taken a seat at the CEO's table. Michael's assistant frowned as soon as he saw her. "Sir, someone sitting at your table," he whispered. Michael glanced over and saw Lily, thin, pale, clearly nervous. She wasn't dressed like the wealthy families around, and she looked like she was about to faint from hunger. His first instinct as a businessman was to ask her to leave. But then Emily tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, she looks sad. Can't she stay?" Michael walked up to Lily. She stood immediately, apologizing with trembling lips. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to, this was a mistake. I'll leave right now." Her voice cracked. But before she could step away, Michael looked at her closely. He saw something in her eyes, pain, desperation, but also dignity. And then he said the one word that changed everything, "Stay." Lily froze. She thought she had misheard. Michael repeated, his tone firm but kind, "Sit down. Stay." Emily clapped her little hands happily and said, "Yes, stay with us. You can sit next to me." Before Lily could protest, Emily pulled her hand, and she was seated again, this time truly welcomed. The meal began. The waiter brought expensive dishes, roast chicken, pasta, and soft bread. Lily stared at the food, her stomach twisting, but her hands hesitated. Michael noticed. "Go ahead," he said gently. "Eat." Tears welled in her eyes as she picked up the fork. She hadn't tasted warm food in days, and with each bite, the tears kept slipping silently down her cheeks. Emily, too young to understand poverty but old enough to feel kindness, wiped one of Lily's tears and said, "Don't cry, you're with us now." Michael asked her questions, who she was, where her family was, why she was there. Lily explained softly. She had lost her parents in an accident years ago, worked part-time jobs to survive, but recently lost everything when her landlady kicked her out. She had been wandering with only her resume and dreams of finding a job, any job, to rebuild her life. Her voice broke when she admitted she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. The entire restaurant seemed to fade as Michael listened in silence. For a man who dealt with million-dollar deals every day, this young girl's battle for survival hit him differently. Maybe because he knew pain too, losing his wife years ago, raising Emily alone, and carrying the burden of never showing weakness. By the end of dinner, Michael made a decision. He leaned forward and said, "Lily, you don't belong on the streets, and you certainly don't deserve to be starving. I can't let you leave like this. Tomorrow, you'll come to my company. There's a job waiting for you." Lily's fork froze in her hand. She looked at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. "But sir, why me? You don't even know me." Michael's reply was simple but powerful. "Because everyone deserves someone to believe in them, and tonight, I believe in you." Emily hugged Lily tightly and whispered, "See, I told you Daddy is nice." And for the first time in months, Lily smiled, a real smile, filled with hope. But Lily didn't know that saying yes to staying at that table would not only change her life but also transform Michael and Emily's world in ways none of them could imagine. And that's where the real story begins. When Lily arrived at Hayes Enterprises the next morning, her heart raced faster than ever. The skyscraper stood tall against the city skyline, glittering glass windows reflecting the morning sun. She felt so small standing at its entrance, a girl who had nothing, now stepping into the empire of one of the richest men in the country. She clutched her worn bag tightly, her resume still inside even though Michael had already promised her a place. Doubt whispered in her ear, maybe he'd forget, maybe it was just kindness at dinner. But as soon as she entered, the receptionist smiled warmly and said, "Welcome, Miss Lily. Mr. Hayes is expecting you." Escorted upstairs, she entered Michael's office. He was seated behind a large desk, his presence commanding yet calm. Emily was there too, coloring in a notebook, her little legs swinging. When Emily saw Lily, she jumped up and ran to hug her. "You came. Daddy said you'd come. You're my friend now." That hug, small and innocent, erased Lily's last bit of fear. Michael looked up and said, "I keep my word, Lily. From today, you're part of my company. We'll start you as an assistant in the communications department. Work hard, and you'll grow." Her hands shook as she whispered, thank you so much." She wasn't just grateful for the job, she was grateful for dignity, for being seen, for being lifted from despair. But she promised herself she would prove she deserved it. Days turned into weeks. Lily worked harder than anyone expected. She arrived early, stayed late, and even though she came from nothing, her intelligence, honesty, and determination shone through. Colleagues who first judged her by her worn clothes slowly started admiring her. She wasn't just a charity case, she was talented, resilient, and inspiring. Michael, from his office, noticed. He found himself watching her sometimes, not as a boss but as a man realizing her presence brought light not only to the company but to his own home. Emily adored her. They would laugh, draw, and read together. At night, when Michael tucked Emily into bed, she often whispered, "Daddy, can Lily stay with us forever?" Michael never answered, but in his heart, a thought was growing, maybe fate had brought Lily to their table for a reason. But life wasn't easy. One evening, as Lily left the building, she was confronted by one of Michael's business rivals who mocked her. "You really think you belong here? A poor girl among millionaires? Michael Hayes must be desperate." The words cut deep, but before she could reply, Michael appeared behind her. His voice was sharp. "She belongs here because she earned her place. And anyone who can't respect her doesn't deserve to stand in my presence." That night, as he walked her out, Lily realized Michael wasn't just her savior, he was her protector. Slowly, their bond deepened. Michael saw in Lily the strength he admired, the kindness Emily needed, and the warmth his heart had been missing. Lily saw in Michael not just a powerful CEO but a father, a man carrying silent pain, and someone who gave without expecting anything in return. Months later, at the same restaurant where it all began, Michael invited Lily and Emily for dinner. As they sat down, Emily squeezed Lily's hand and said, "This is our table now, not just Daddy's." Michael looked at Lily and said with a smile, "The night you sat at the wrong table, you gave us something we were missing. You gave us family. Tears filled Lily's eyes as she realized, she hadn't just been given a job. She had been given a new life, a new home, and maybe, a new love. So remember this, sometimes the mistakes we think will ruin us are the very moments that save us. And sometimes, sitting at the wrong table puts us exactly where we're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories, because more stories of hope and love are waiting for you. Thank you for watching, and never forget, kindness changes everything.